Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Paramagurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So we're continuing on from text 127 in the fourth Vilasa of Hari Bhakti Vilasa. So up until now, the fourth Vilasa has also been explaining a little bit about how to take a bath. The bath which we're talking about today is the bath which we take at home, and it seems to be like the midday bath, or the bath before we perform the midday duties. And it's preliminary. It's given here a preliminary in Hari Bhakti Vilasa to doing the actual worship of the deity in the house. So let's have a look at the text. So the last text, 126, was talking about taking bath with amalaki, and amalaki is again that astringent small gooseberry type fruit in India that they use in a lot of Ayurvedic medicines, and it's very good at cleaning off. For instance, if you take an oil bath, it'll cut the oil and get that off your skin. But here it says the different days when you should do the amalaki juice mixed in the water. So the next text is 127, and 127 says bathing with water mixed with sesame seeds. Now you're saying here water mixed with sesame seeds, but I would suggest that you get the sesame seeds and you grind them up into a paste, and you use that just like when you do an amalaki bath or a tila, an oil bath. You put the oil on, you massage the oil on the body, and it helps to get rid of the dirt. The same thing with the sesame seeds. You make it into a paste and you smear it all over the body or massage it into the body and then wash off with water. So Brihaspati has said in this regard, the great sage Vyasadeva has made arrangements for bathing with sesame seeds during all seasons. So this is some quotation from Brihaspati, who is the guru of the gods, of the demigods, the devatas. And he's saying that Vyasadeva says it's okay to bathe with sesame seeds in all different seasons. So up until now, we've had some different restrictions for bathing with different materials. Even with bathing with hot water or cold water or cool water, we've seen that normally when we do a vrata, or we do a particular ritual, if we're taking a ritual bath, normally it's not with hot water. But every day for daily bath, we can definitely take warm water bath or hot water bath. And especially if somebody is unhealthy, then he may have to take a warm water bath more than cool water bath. But the cool water bath is for different rituals that we do, the ritual bath. So continuing on with text 128, according to this other person's opinion, Shatrishad, he says, those who desire wealth, children, and a good wife should not touch a person who touches sesame seeds on the seventh day, that's the Saptami, the new moon day, that's the Amavasya, or a day when the sun enters into a new sign of the zodiac, that is a Sankranti day, as well as on the days of solar or lunar eclipse. Solar eclipse is called a Surya Grahana. Lunar eclipse is called a Chandra Grahana. So on the Saptami, the seventh day, the Amavasya, the new moon day, when Sankranti, when the sun goes into another zodiac sign, or solar or lunar eclipses, you should not touch a person who has touched sesame seeds, right? So what it's really saying here is the person doing sesame bath. On those days, you shouldn't touch it if you desire wealth, children, or a good wife. Okay, if you don't desire those things, then probably you don't have to worry about this opinion. Text 129, Tailashnanam. Tailashnanam means oil bath. Oil bath doesn't mean you bathe somebody with oil. It means that they take oil and they rub it on their skin. Usually in North India, they use mustard oil, and it's sort of heating. When you massage mustard oil into the skin, it sort of heats the body up, warms the body up. And then you rinse with water, of course. Normally, you have to rinse with. You might have to use some sort of soap or something to get the oil off. But also, warm water is used to get off the oil. But the oil mixes with the grime and the dirt coming out of the skin, and it cleans the skin very nicely. And also, it doesn't dry out the skin. Oil bath doesn't dry out the skin. Sometimes when we take bath many times, the skin gets to be dry. So putting oil on the skin, just like we sometimes put oil on the hair, ladies at least put oil on the hair, which is what they used to do before they had conditioner. After they shampoo the hair, after they clean the hair, after we clean the hair becomes dried out. So we add some sort of oil. So in North India, they usually use mustard oil. In South India, they use what's called sesame oil. Sesame oil usually for these sort of things. So text 129, by applying oil to one's body on the 6th day of the waning moon. So that waning moon is the Krishna Paksha. And the 6th day is called Shasti. So the Shasti of the Krishna Paksha, as well as on 4 festival days. 4 festival days, and it's not mentioned exactly what the festival days are, but it says here Parvasu. Parvasu usually means the Parvans, and the Parvans are Astami, so 2 Astamis, Astami, Purnima, Amavasya, and I think Astami and Chaturdasi. So the 8th and the 14th days, plus the Purnima and Amavasya. So in the 4, so it says as well as the 4 days. So the 6th day, as well as 4 festival days. So here the word Parvasu means on the Parva days. So it's mentioned here that the 4 Parvas. So in my understanding, there are 6 Parvas actually. So the 6th day of the waning moon, also the Astamis and Chaturdasis, the 8th day and the 14th day of the moon, and also the Purnima and Amavasya. So by applying oil on one's body or taking oil bath on the 6th day of the waning moon, as well as the Parva days or the 4 festival days, one's duration of life is reduced. So the rule here, it's saying that we should not take oil bath on those particular days. So the 6th day of the Krishna Paksha, of the waning moon, and then the Astami, Chaturdasi, the 8th and the 14th days, the Amavasya and the Purnima. Okay, so continuing on, text 130 to 132, the sage Yajnavalkya says, in this regard, a person without foresight who bathes on the 10th day of the waning moon, that means the Krishna Ekadasi, right? Without applying oil to his body, becomes bereft of a long duration of life, good intelligence, fame, and wealth. So what he's saying here is that at least in the Krishna Paksha, the waning fortnight of the moon, on the 10th day, the day before Ekadasi, right? Then one should bathe with oil. One should do the oil bath. Once again, that can be, any type of oil. If you've got a lot of money, you could use sandalwood oil, but people in North India usually use mustard oil. In South India, they usually use sesame oil. So a person who, due to ignorance, massages his body with oil on the 1st day, that is the Pratipad or the Pratima, the 6th day, the Shasti, the new moon day, the Amavasya, the 4th day, the Chaturthi, the 9th day or Navami, or the 14th day of the waning moon. These are all of the waning moon, right? Which means the Krishna Paksha, the dark fortnight, also loses the 4 above mentioned assets. What are they again? They are long duration of life, good intelligence, fame, and wealth. Okay, this is according to Yajnavalkya, who is a Shmiti writer. Okay, So it is also prohibited to apply oil to the body on the 15th day. The 15th day, of course, of each fortnight is either Amavasya, the new moon, or Purnima, the full moon. The 14th day, which was mentioned before, which is one of the Parva days, right, which is the Chaturdasi. And then the 7th day, the Saptami, the 12th day, the Dwadasi, and the 6th day of the waning moon, as well as on the day when the sun travels into a new sign of the zodiac, which was already mentioned, that is the Sankranti day. So, continuing on to text 133. In another place, we don't know where this verse is from, but it says, one must avoid using oil on the 7th day or Saptami, the 9th day, Navami, the 1st day, Pratama or Pratipad, the 8th day or Astami, and 14th day of the waning moon. So we see, and especially on the new moon day, which is the Amavasya. So we see a bit of a pattern here that in the dark fortnight of the moon, the use of oil for massage before taking bath, which is called Taila Snanam or oil bath, is not normally. There are many days when it's prohibited. Okay, so then we continue on to text 134. There may be a reason for that or not. The dark fortnight or the Krishna Paksha of the month, a lot of times that is associated with the ancestors. So it may have something to do with ancestor worship, Pitri worship, or something like that. We don't know exactly. We'd have to look in the Shmiti Shastras and see exactly why, if they've given some reasons for not taking oil bath at that time. Oil bath tends to be done by people only on certain occasions, and it's not something that you do every day. So another thing which is stated in text 134 is whether you're bathing or otherwise, so whether for bathing or for otherwise, using warm oil does not yield any fault. Okay, so if you're going to use oil, you can warm up the oil. Anybody who's ever had an oil massage, you know that if the oil's made a little bit warm, it's more soothing and it's easier for the masseuse to use it. Okay, so 135, continuing on, in the Atri Shmriti. So these are all rules. A lot of these rules are coming from Shmriti Shastras. Shmriti Shastras are written by Manu and other Parasara, different Yagyavalkya, even Apastamba and Bodhayana. Different people have written Shmriti Shastras. They're also called Dharma Shastras, which give us the rules and regulations for the Varnashram system. Of nowadays, it's not maybe not so much important because we don't really have a proper Varnashram system instituted in even in India. So what to speak of in other countries? And so these are all rules and regulations for Varnashrama. So in the Atri Shmriti, it's stated, if a Brahmana passes stool or urine after applying oil or ghee to his body, so here it's saying even you could use ghee, and I think that's probably borne out by the Sanskrit here. Probably there's a word for ghee here. Can't see one right now, but anyway. He should purify himself by fasting for 24 hours and then eating five kinds of milk products, the 5 products of the ghee, which are called panchagavya. You don't actually eat these things. What you do is here's the rule. The rule is a brahmana passes stool or urine after having applied oil or ghee to his body. So what are we trying to say here? We're trying to say here, if you're going to take an oil bath, first thing you should do is you should go relieve yourself or attend to the calls of nature. Then after that, only after that, you should apply the ghee or the oil. So if you're ever going to have an oil massage or an oil bath like that, first thing to do is pass stool or urine first and then have the massage. Don't have the massage first and then in the middle of the massage you have to go, or at the end of the massage before taking bath, you have to pass stool or urine because it's forbidden here according to Atri Shmriti. So if you do that, if you break this rule, there's an atonement or what we call prayaschitta to make up for that sin. And the prayaschitta to make up from that sin is to fast for 24 hours. So the next day, that means no eating. Doesn't mean you can't drink water, but normally it just means you don't eat. And then you have to take panchagavya to purify yourself. Now, the way you take panchagavya is you take a mixture of yogurt, milk, a little bit of ghee, a drop of cow urine, a very speck of cow dung, and you mix it together. And there are some mantras in order to make a ritual panchagavya. And so it's mostly milk with a little yogurt, very little bit of ghee, very little bit of cow urine, very little bit of cow dung, right? And you mix it up, and then you take achaman of it. You sip it, maybe put 3 times, 3 drops of it, 3 spoonfuls of it into your right palm, and sip it 3 times. Okay, so that is done. Many rituals there are where people sip panchagavya. For instance, in the initiation ceremony, it wasn't mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilasa chapter 2. But in the initiation ceremony, it's very common for the guru to make panchagavya mixture and to give each of the disciples to sip that, and he also sips that to be purified. It's a way of purifying oneself. So here the prayaschitta, or the atonement for passing stool or urine after massaging the body with oil or ghee, is to do a 24-hour fast and then sip those things, that panchagavya, to become purified. Thereafter, he should bathe, perform the Agamarshana ritual. Agamarshana is a mantra. It's an optional mantra in Sandhya. People do this. There's a mantra where you meditate upon the sin personified in the body, and you breathe. You put some water in your hand, and you chant a Vedic mantra, and then you breathe the sin out into the water and throw it away, and throw it to the left side. So it's I haven't put it in the minimal Sandhya prayoga, which I've given to everybody, but Agamarshana is also a part of Sandhya. It's a ritual for purification of the body. It says it here. Okay, so in which one sips a small quantity of water from his palm while his nose is placed within the water. No, that's not what it is. Okay, so the person who translated this has no idea about what it is. You hold the water in your hand, you chant the Vedic mantra, you breathe the sin out of your nose onto the water and throw it away. So this should be followed by another bath. So first of all, if you do this sin, you fast for 24 hours, you sip panchagavya, then you take a bath, ritual bath, after which you do this Agamarshana ritual, and then you after that you have to take another bath, and then you have to take another bath using the water that has washed the feet of your spiritual master and other elderly persons in the household, like your parents or grandparents or older siblings, like that, people who you are very who you revere. Okay, so now, if you don't have anybody, if you're not living with any relatives like that, what you can do is you can just offer some water to the spiritual master. When you worship the spiritual master, you can offer some water to him, and then meditate that you're washing his feet, and you can keep that water and use that. Finally, he should bathe once by pouring water mixed with tulsi leaves, right, on his body with a conch shell. So you have a conch shell. Probably you would use a different conch shell than the one you're using in your deity worship. You have a separate conch shell. It's interesting here in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, people don't know this, but it does mention taking bath with water with tulsi leaves in it, and taking bath. So normally we would consider, we probably would use also tulsi leaves that have been used in the worship of the Lord. So for instance, in the third Vilasa, we talked about going to the temple and waking up the deity and removing the tulsi leaves and sandalwood paste on the feet of the deity after we wake him up, and replacing them with new sandalwood and tulsi right before Mangalarti. And so that nirmalya, what is left over, or the remnants, when we say there's a type of prasadam called nirmalya prasadam, it's remnants, like old garlands or old flowers, old tulsi. There might be a tulsi garland, or it might be tulsi from the feet or from the hand of a deity. And we take that and we can use that, we can add that to some water, and we can use that to bathe with. right? And that's very auspicious. So here also it said that you can bathe with pouring water mixed with tulsi, but we shouldn't just take tulsi leaves from the tulsi tree and put them in water and take bath with that. Those should be prasadam tulsi leaves that we use, right? So that we get the full benefit of that. But because we should not use the tulsi leaves ourselves until after, just like anything else, we want to offer everything that we use, everything that we eat, right? Right. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Yat karosi yadasnasi yat jahosi dadasi yat japasisi konteya tat kurushva madarpana. Madarpanam, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer and give away, please do as a sacrifice to me. It's like that. So whatever, even taking a bath, we should do as a sacrifice to the Lord, to Lord Krishna. So we should have a separate conch shell that we use for bathing ourselves. If not, if you don't have a conch shell, you can simply take bath by pouring from a pot. Or this type of bath that we're talking about here, specifically, again, is not the bath in the morning. The early morning bath, you go outside, out of the house, you go to a tank or to a river, or even to a well where you pull water in a kumbha, in a pot, from the earth to pour over yourself. This other type of bath is normally done in the house, so it's a griha shnanam, and you do it, and therefore you might need to pour it on your head from a bucket or from a pot or from a concha. So pouring from a concha is also auspicious. And sometimes people, when they do the bath in the river, also they make a kumbha mudra. They make a particular mudra and hold that over their head like they're pouring from a pot. Okay, so continuing on. Text 38, 138 to 139. Ata tulsi jalabhisheka mahatmyam. So the glories, mahatmyam means the glories of bathing with water mixed with tulsi leaves. And a lot of people haven't heard of this before. But in the Garuda Purana, it mentions, O Brahmana, if a Vaishnava touches tulsi to his body while bathing, he at once becomes an abode of all sacred places. Right? It's very nice. So just the touch of tulsi makes your body completely purified, like that. So why would you not take bath, put a tulsi leaf in the bath water, and that will purify you. If the killer of a Brahmin, right, somebody who's committed a very grave sin, there's different types of sins. There's what we call venal sins, or very great sins, which are called mahapatikas, mahapapas or mahapatikas, and I believe there's eight major sins, and one of them is killing a Brahmin. There are other ones. We don't need to go into it here, but in the Shmiti Shastra specifically, it talks about this great sins, and then there's lesser sins. There's just, breaking some small rule is not a great sin. But if there's a very, plundering wealth, delivering poison, killing a Brahmin, sleeping with the Guru's wife, all these sort of things, these are considered to be great sins. Okay, so he becomes liberated from all sinful reactions. There's some more, but we don't need to go into it. So, especially on Ekadasi. If the killer of a Brahmin bathes with water mixed with tulsi leaves, especially on Ekadasi, which is a holy day of Lord Vishnu, right? He becomes liberated from all sinful reactions. Great. So this is the first verse of the Mahatmyam of bathing with water, which is mixed with tulsi leaves. Continuing on to text 140 to 142. By bathing daily after smearing one's body with clay, and remember, this clay is used, it's pure clay, it's clean clay, it's clean dirt, and it's used to scrub the body before rinsing the body with water, right? So after bathing daily, by smearing one's body with clay from the root of the tulsi plant, a devotee achieves the result of having 10 ritualistic baths after the performance of horse sacrifices. So horse sacrifice is a very great sacrifice. It's a very big Vedic sacrifice, which is done mainly by kings, by emperors. And that is a great thing. If you perform 100, then you become eligible to take the post of Indra in heaven. And so it's like taking 10 ritualistic baths, 10 different baths. So Yeah, so the effect of just taking bath with a little bit of dirt of the tulsi plant. Now, the dirt of the tulsi plant is also holy, just as the tulsi tree and the tulsi wood is holy. The tulsi leaves, the tulsi manjaris, which are the flowers with the seeds, they're all holy, and the dirt that the tulsi tree is sitting in is considered holy. Now, obviously, you can't take a lot of dirt from every tulsi tree every day, because the tulsi needs that dirt also to grow. So you can just take a small amount of tulsi dirt, and you can touch it to your body and then rinse off like that, and that's considered very, very holy. In the chat, somebody's just asking about bathing naked, but the Shastra never says to bathe naked. So therefore, this is not going to be a question, because if we bathe with tulsi in the water, if the tulsi touches one of the secret parts, or the private parts, we call them in Sanskrit, it's called guhya. So the anus and the genitals and these sort of places are considered to be private parts, and they're not considered. They're also considered to be unclean parts, because just like the other 9 gates of the body, the 9 holes in the body, they're considered to be dirty parts. But we do clean them, of course, with the after passing stool and urine we clean, and also taking bath is cleaning them. So if tulsi isn't an offense, if tulsi touches your genitals or your anus or something like that when you're taking bath like that, that is probably a good reason to wear something while you're taking bath. And the Shastra never says to bathe naked, but at the same time, some people do bathe naked. And the thing is, if you're bathing naked, maybe don't do it with tulsi leaves. Maybe don't do it in a certain way. What we're talking about here, remember, is we're talking about ritualistic bath. So there's different types of bath. There's a ritualistic bath, which we do with mantras, with tulsi leaves, with so many different ritualistic things. And then there's also might be just a washing. We're going to wash ourselves just to get dirt off our body like that, without any mantras or anything like that. So mostly today, because everybody's got indoor plumbing, right? People go in the bathroom and they just take a shower or take a bath, and then that's it. They do it and they're taking water from a tap or a pipe, which is held in a tank or comes through a municipal pipe like that. That water is ritualistically impure, according to Shastra. That water is ritualistically impure, water coming from a tap. Okay? Only water which is kept in the earth, right? Not even rainwater. Water kept in the earth. The earth is Bhumi Devi. Bhumi Devi is the consort of the Lord Vishnu, right? And so she will keep the water pure. So water in a river, water in a pond, even seawater, or water in a well, which comes from the earth, that water is considered ritualistically pure. Whether the river is actually pure or not, scientifically, is another matter. Okay, there may be a polluted sea, there may be a polluted river, there may be a polluted tank of water in the ground, like that. But ritualistically, it's considered pure because it's in contact with Bhumi Devi, the consort of the Lord, she's completely pure. Okay, so now that is ritualistically pure. Now, water, once you take that water and you put it from a reservoir, it goes into pipes. Those pipes are considered impure. If it's kept in your house in a tank, overhead tank in the house, that's impure, like that. If you want to take a bath using a container, you have to have a pure container, a ritualistic bath. You have to have a pure container. You have to have a pot, either a brass pot or a copper pot or a gold pot or a silver pot. Stainless steel is considered okay nowadays, but usually an iron pot in old days, the iron pots were iron pots or clay pots. If it's clean, okay, it might be okay. And then you put it down in the well and you get the water from the well and you can take bath with that water. Otherwise, when water touches the tank, the pipes or the tanks or whatever like that, it's considered ritually impure. Of course, we have ways of making the water pure again. we have ways of making the water pure again, and we mentioned them in the last part of the last class. We were talking about invoking the holy rivers into the water with there are 12 names of the Ganges which we can chant, and there's also the very common verse which we all know about invoking the different holy rivers, Ganga Cha, Yamuna Chaiva, etc. So that was there. We talked about that yesterday. Okay, so obviously when you're bathing outside, one of the reasons there was a lot of outside bathing because there was no indoor plumbing in the Vedic civilization. So people used to go to these holy places. Holy places, in fact, are called tirthas, and the word tirtha means that it's a holy place where there's holy water, like a river or a sacred lake. Because a lot of the bathing was done outside, and even today in different temples, there'll be a tank outside the temple where people take bath before they go into the temple, ritualistic bath. That because of that, it's all mentioned here like that. There's no mention in the Shastras of going into the bathroom and turning the tap on. And okay, so just talking about taking bath again. In the scriptures, obviously, it doesn't talk about taking water from a tap. All of this is ritualistic bath, and therefore it's different from the bath that we take normally every day. We just go in the bathroom, and because we're inside, we close the door and we're in the bathroom by ourselves. Then sometimes we might take a naked bath or not. But normally the idea behind that in the scriptures, they'll say, well, there's always the demigods. There's always different personalities, subtle personalities who may be watching. So we're not supposed to take a bath naked. But in any case, many people do take naked bath, and obviously you're not going to do it outside. Otherwise, we've seen in the scriptures sometimes there's some penalties for people who were perhaps inebriated or intoxicated, and they took a bath naked outside, and therefore they were cursed by some rishi or whatever it is. So now we do hear some stories in the scriptures. For instance, the gopis took bath naked in the Yamuna, but see, that was considered to be an offense to Yamuna. So therefore, there was a whole leela with Krishna, and Krishna stole their clothes, and then there was also Nanda Maharaj took bath, but at the wrong time in a holy river, holy place, and that was considered an offense to the holy place. I might mention to you that these holy rivers, the great rivers in India, a holy river usually is a river which enters directly into the sea. So if there's any river that enters directly into the sea, that's considered to be a holy river, a sacred river. The other streams that flow into that river are not so holy. But any source of water in the earth is considered pure because of its connection with Bhumi Devi. So people do take bath in these holy rivers, and they're enumerated in that verse which we chant, Ganga Cha, Yamuna Chaiva. So Ganga Yamuna, Ganga Cha, Yamuna Chaiva, Godavari, Saraswati, which is no longer seen, let's say, Narmada, Sindhu, Kaveri. Kaveri flows by Srirangam and Srirangapatnam, different holy places. And there's some others in South India, Tamraparni. There's so many other holy rivers, in India. Okay, so now the holy rivers are all conceived of, personified as goddesses, right? So it's very interesting that certain times of the year you can take bath. Certain times of the year you can take bath in the holy rivers, and other times you are not allowed to take bath. There are some times when you're not supposed to take bath in certain holy rivers. So astrologically, what they do is the astrologers write in the Panchangam, in the calendar, they write the times when you're not supposed to take bath in the rivers. There's some times when you're not supposed to take bath in the rivers. Okay, so there are some times when they consider the goddess of the river has got her menstrual period, and therefore at that time you do not take bath in the holy rivers. So that's what they say. Okay. So it's just a concept that the river is a goddess and the goddess has a period, and therefore we shouldn't take bath in the river at that time. So it's a sort of an interesting thing. But anyway, besides the point. So basically the question is, can we take bath using tulsi in the water if we're completely naked? So first of all, you're making a ritual bath. You're doing a ritual bath. So if you're doing a ritual bath, you shouldn't be naked anyway. If you're not doing a ritual bath, then why would you, then don't do tulsi, don't do any of these things, right? Okay. So probably my suggestion would be, do not use tulsi leaves in the water if you're taking a naked bath, like that. But if you're taking a naked bath, you're not taking a ritualistic bath. So then you're not following any of these things like rubbing tulsi dirt on yourself or using tulsi leaves. But it's questionable. It's a questionable thing. I mean, obviously, we have to think about all the aspects if we're going to use tulsi leaves in water. But it is, it's stated there. Okay, so we've got a Mahatmyam here. We've got the glories of taking bath with water with tulsi leaves in it in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. So it's definitely a thing that you should do if you can do it. If you can do it in a pure way, in a ritually pure way, but doing it while being naked is not a ritualistically pure way. So therefore, we shouldn't do it that way. Okay, so one who daily puts water mixed with tulsi on his head attains the result of bathing in the Ganges. So learned persons know that there's no difference between ordinary water mixed with tulsi leaves and Ganges water. So there you go. So that's an easy way of making Ganges water, is you put some add tulsi to some water, and it becomes equivalent to Ganges water. So all of this invoking the Ganges with the 12 names of the Ganges, or the verse of the Sapta Mahanadi of Ahanam, Gangachaya Munichaya, but we don't need to do that. If we just take a tulsi leaf and put the tulsi leaf in water, it becomes as good as Ganges water. So this is later on, this is important, because what we're going to do is when we're worshiping the deity, we'll be offering different waters and different things to the deity, and we'll always offer to the deity things which are touched by the tulsi leaf. So Lord Krishna, he wants the tulsi leaf to be an integral part of his worship, and by touching the tulsi leaf or adding tulsi leaves to different items, not just the food, but also different waters like Padya, Agya, Achmaniya, etc. of Lord Krishna, that makes those things very holy. So here it's stated it makes it into basically the same as Ganges water. And there's no doubt that carrying water mixed with tulsi on one's head, a person achieves the result of bathing in all holy places. One should place the water mixed with tulsi that has washed the lotus feet. One should place the water mixed with tulsi that has washed the lotus feet of the Lord and kept in a copper container in a conch shell, and pour it on his head while chanting the Mula mantra. And remember, the Mula mantra is the mantra that the Guru has initiated you into. We talked about that in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, second Vilasa. Here specifically, because Gaudiya Vaishnavas are mostly reading Hari Bhakti Vilasa, and Hari Bhakti Vilasa is mostly talking about the use of the Gopal mantra, the 18th syllable Astakshara Gopal mantra, Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopajana Vallabhaya Swaha, which is here. Whenever you see the word Mula mantra, you should think of that mantra to be used. So what's it saying here? Is it saying one should take water mixed with tulsi, right? The water which has washed the feet of the Lord. So if you have Charanamrita, which is just plain water from the day before, so like what I do in my puja room is I've got Charanamrita from the day before in a big pot, right? It's water that is used to wash the deities, right? And it has tulsi leaves in it. And before I throw that water out on my garden, right? Because I need that to wash that and to use that for the next day. Then I will take some of that water, which is mixed with tulsi leaves, and I will sprinkle that on my head like that. I don't put it, I keep it in a copper container, but I don't put it in a conch shell and pour it on my head, chant the Mula mantra, but just simply sprinkle it on your head. So this is something that people do before they throw out yesterday's Charanamrita, sprinkle some on your head. You can even sip it. Even we were discussing about getting up in the morning and sipping Charanamrita and sprinkling some on your head. So you can do that. So that's also very purifying. It's a type of bath. It's also another type of bath. Okay, so continuing on with text 143, the glories of such a bath, meaning with tulsi leaves and with Charanamrita water, the water used to wash the lotus feet of the Lord, are found in the Kartik Mahatmyam. That means the glories of the month of Kartik in the Padma Purana as follows. So the water mixed with tulsi that was used in the bath of Shalagram Shila or Dwarka Shila, right, and which has been poured into a copper plate, with a conch shell, destroys the sinful reactions awarded to one for killing a Brahmin. So once again, here it's talking about some atonement for killing a Brahmin, which is considered to be a great sin, probably the greatest sin. And therefore, we can think all other sins are less than that, so it also destroys all the other sins, right? And so if we take water and tulsi that has been used to bathe shalagram later on we're going to be talking about in the fifth Vilasa, we're going to be talking about what is a shalagrama, what is a dwarka shila. The word shila means stone, right? So we have some holy stones. The shalagrama, this is, I think, the first time we're seeing the mention of shalagram and dwarka shila here in the fourth Vilasa. So the shalagrama is a stone which has the symbols of Vishnu, the chakra sometimes on it, and naturally occurring. And it comes from a river called the Gandaki River, which flows in Nepal and down into India, in the Nepal region. There's a whole story about how the shalagram became understood to be a self-manifest deity of Vishnu or of Krishna. And the Dwarka Shila similarly is not actually a stone, but it's a piece of coral, white coral, that has also these chakra markings, natural chakra markings like the wheel of Lord Vishnu, the disc of Lord Vishnu. And it comes from the place Dwarka, which is, of course, Lord Krishna's capital city on the ocean in the west of India in Dwarka, in Gujarat state. So if we continue on, so if you've got that Charanamrita, if you've got that water mixed with tulsi that has been naturally, you're going to put tulsi in the water when you bathe the deity. So naturally, there's going to be some tulsi leaves that come naturally in the Charanamrita. And when we make Charanamrita, we mix some of the other waters, Padya, Agya, Achmaniya, like that, that we've been using. We mix them all into the throw-out pot and or the Visarjani, where we've collected the water that comes, or it could just be the water from the Shnaniya Patra, from the particular vessel that we use to seat the deity when we do the Abhishekam or the bathing of the deity. And it could just be that, but in any case, there's going to be some tulsi leaves there mixed with the water. So we can take that water and we can pour it into a copper plate with a conch shell. I mean, that part is incidental. That's just details. The main point is to get the Charanamrita with tulsi and use it for sprinkling on our head, taking a type of bath like that, and that will purify us from many, many sins, including the sin of killing a Brahmin. Okay, so text 144, it says, one should take off the clothes that he had worn while bathing. Okay, so this answers the question, right? So he's assuming here that you're wearing some clothes while you're bathing, right? So the clothes that you're wearing in bathing, and some people will insist that you have to wear two pieces of cloth when you're bathing, not just one, not just a gamsha, but you also have to wear. And most people, if they're taking bath in a holy place like that, they'll, at least for men, the men will wear kopanas, underwear, and they'll also wear an outer covering, like what's called a gamsha, or just a wrap around like that. And then, but they may not wear that. Just to bathe in the kopana is okay. Also, depends. And then sometimes they also have a chadar which is wrapped around like that. If anybody has seen I gave a link to the ritual bath performed by the Brahmin in Melkote on the WhatsApp group, and if people download it and see that what he does is he takes also the old clothes that he was wearing while he was sleeping, the dhoti and angavastram, wraps them around his body while he takes bath, because you have to clean your clothes. If you're going to clean your clothes, if you're not going to have somebody else clean your clothes, then actually, ritualistically speaking, you're not supposed to have a professional person wash your clothes. All right, it's not considered that the clothes are pure if you have a low caste person, or what in India they call them dhobis, or washermen, washing your clothes. And you can do that. You can pay a few rupees and you can have somebody wash your clothes and iron the clothes, but that's not considered to be ritualistically pure. The best thing is not to have anybody do it. Obviously, you might have your wife or somebody else in your house might do it. But the best thing, of course, is to do it yourself. And if you're going to do it yourself, you have to be clean when you wash your clothes. If you're going to wash clothes and keep them ritualistically pure, then you have to be pure when you wash them. Because if you're in a contaminated state and you wash them, you can't clean them because you're touching them and you're contaminated. So what they do is they wear the old cloth and they take bath with the cloth on, and then wash the cloth at the same time they're taking bath and hang it up to dry. Then then they get back and finish the ritualistic bath. When they come out of the ritualistic bath, you'll see this all in the video. When they come out from the ritualistic bath, in India it's very hot, so sometimes it's even dry by that time when you come out. So, but in any case, it was mentioned before that you should have a fresh cloth, a different cloth for wiping the body and drying the body. And you should not use the cloth or the gumsha that you actually were wearing at the time. The cloth that you're wearing at the time has to be wrung out. And we talked about this before in the Pratyaha Snanam, in the early morning bath. There's a thing called Nishpida, where you offer tarpana to the rishis, pitris, and devas, right, at the end of the bath, at the end of ritualistic bath. And you also have to offer some tarpana with water squeezed out from the cloth that you were wearing. For people who don't have any progeny, they don't have any children, to do that tarpana for them. So there might be a dead person who doesn't have anybody who to do tarpana for them. So that water squeezed out from your wet gumsha is going to be called Nishpida Tarpanam for that person. Okay, so here it says once again in number 144, you take off the clothes that were worn while bathing and put on fresh dry cloth for what and use fresh dry cloth for wiping the body. This is before you put on your fresh clothes. After doing so, you should put on a clean dhoti and chadar. So 2 pieces of cloth, the dhoti, or that's if you're a grihastha. If you're a brahmachari or sannyasi, they usually just wear a type of lungi or what's called vesti in South India without a tail, without the kacha. Actually, wearing a dhoti, the traditional system for grihasthas, and grihastha is the main ashram that supports all the other ashrams. And the grihastha usually wears what we call panchakacha. If for ritualistic purposes, the dhoti is tied in such a way, the kacha means a fold. So there's one fold that you do that goes between your legs and goes up behind you and is tucked in. There's some other folds on each side which keep the dhoti from falling off. So there's one on each side. So there's those 3. And then in front, when you fold it twice, once vertically and once horizontally, and tuck it in. This is a specific type of dhoti, a style of wearing dhoti or wrapping the cloth, and this is called panchakacha. And this is normally the system in South India. Okay, so now there are other ways of wearing cloth all over Southeast Asia and in different parts of India for different classes and different castes of people and in different regions, right? So I have a whole PhD thesis done by a French lady on the different types of wrapping of cloth, saris and dhotis. If people want it, they could just message me on WhatsApp, and I'll give it to you, and you can see all the different varieties of different types of wrappings that people use and how they do cloth. Now, the idea is that there in the Vedic civilization is they would wrap cloth and they would fold it in different ways and tuck it in different ways, and that they would wear it in that way rather than cutting it and sewing it together and making it form-fitting, as we do in the West. Usually in modern times, we wear sewn clothing. Sewn clothing is also considered not to be ritualistically pure, mostly because the tailor who does the sewing is considered a lower class person. So all of these, remember, once again, these are all Varnashram rules which deal with the society of Varnashram, which was medieval institution in India. It's not even followed strictly anymore in modern India, what to speak of the rest of the world. But the idea is that the touch of the tailor, also when we cut the cloth, the cloth frays. So one of the reasons we fold the dhoti 5 times is that the edge of the dhoti isn't, the frayed edge of the dhoti isn't shown anywhere where a piece of cotton could come off, or a piece of silk could come off a stray piece and could fall into the puja items. So that's another reason. Sometimes women, when they buy the saris, at the end of the sari, when they cut the palu, they cut the top. Sometimes saris come with a blouse piece which is attached to the palu or the other end of the sari, and they cut it off. Normally the other end. They cut it off. When they cut it off, the edge is frayed. And so what they do with the frayed edge is you can take it to somebody and they'll braid it. They'll knot it together. And this is actually should be done, is that they should knot it together. Ladies know this, that normally today, a couple of things people do with saris today is that they braid the frayed ends. And the other thing is they sew sari falls on them. They sew a strip onto the bottom part, which helps maintain the sari, because it's going to be worn close to the earth, and it may drag in the earth, and it needs to be thicker there at that point, to stop it being worn so much. Okay, but again, there are also other types of saris. There's many different types of saris too. Like there's many different lengths. Usually the 5-yard sari is the 5-yard sari, or even less is the standard, but then you can have even up to 9-yard saris depending on how it's wrapped and everything. In fact, in South India, amongst the Sri Vaishnavas and Smartas, they have this 9-yard sari which is called Madisar, which just means pure cloth, and it's worn in different ways according to the different sect that people belong to. Okay, so anyhow, more about actual dhotis and chadars. Of course, if you're not wearing exactly a dhoti or chadar, normally that's the type of dress that you wear when you're performing ritualistic worship of the Lord, according to Hari Bhakti Vilasa. Now, if there are actually some other rules in Smriti Shastra, Prabhupada mentions in Chaitanya Charitamrita that if somebody wears stitched clothing, or if they cover the top part of their body while offering obeisances to the deities, then they are cursed to be a leper for 7 births. You can find that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a story even 500 years ago during the Lila of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when one person did like that, and he was considered to be to make a mistake. This was a mistake that he made by either wearing sewn cloth or paying his obeisances wearing stitched clothing. And in fact, even today, if you go to South India, especially in Kerala, where it's quite warm, or even in Dakshina Kannada of Karnataka, the district where Udupi is, if you go to the temples, before the deity is dressed with his clothes, you go in the morning to the temple, you have to go with bare chested. You can wrap a chadar around your waist, but you cannot cover yourself with a chadar. They'll tell you, or even wear a shirt when going into the temple. And this is and of course there's nowadays there's an exemption for ladies. Ladies can cover the top part of their bodies. Okay, so continuing on, we're going to now talk about wearing fresh clothes after taking the bath. Right, so text 145 and 148, Ata Vastra Dharana Vidi. So how to put on clothes. Okay, so I just explained a little bit about there are many different methods of folding and tucking the clothes, and the clothes can also be of different colors, and there are some colors which are prohibited in deity worship, some red and deep blue, and some things like that, according to later on we'll be seeing in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. Exactly the reason for that we don't know, but So there's also this also differs from different sampradayas. Like in the Madhva Sampradaya, you'll see the gentlemen, the grihastas they wear all sorts of different colors. So green or blue or red or orange, they're all sorts of different colors they'll be wearing. Sometimes, but mostly generally around India, the men wear white cloth, and the ladies, except unless they're widows or something like that, or some other thing, they normally wear whatever color they like, different colors and patterns. Okay, so in the opinion of sage Atri, remember he wrote a Shmriti Shastra, so he says about wearing the cloth, one should not wear unwashed clothes. So what does that mean? Okay, so the clothes should be washed, and pretty much the idea is that they should be freshly washed. So if you wash the clothes and you put them away for a long time, they're also considered to be unwashed. But here, unwashed clothes definitely means dirty clothes. We shouldn't wear the clothes which we, in some cases in India, a lot of people, they sleep in the clothes that they had on when they were during the day, the previous day, and they get up and then they go to the river and take a bath and wash the clothes at that time and whatever. Anyway, so one should not wear unwashed clothes, right? Because obviously they're considered either dirty because they've been sitting around in a closet for a long time, or they've been or a drawer, or they're actually dirty because you've worn them previously. Okay, so clothes washed by a laundryman. So that's why I mentioned the dhobi, because he's considered to be a low-class person. That person's touch is contaminating to the clothes. So you have to actually, maybe if you have a stain in the clothes, if you have a problem with the clothes, you can give it to the laundryman. He can get the stain out, and then you can simply dip the clothes in water yourself and then make the clothes pure again. So, or clothes washed on previous days. So that's what I was saying. So you should actually wash the clothes and use the clothes at least the next day. So the normal system amongst Brahmins is what they do is, as I said, they're washing the clothes when they're taking the bath in the river or the tank, and they're hanging it up to dry by the side, and it's drying while they're finishing their bath. But if it can't dry that quickly, what you do is you take it home and you put it, first of all, you've got a basket, you've got a wicker basket, you've got a bamboo, sort of thatched basket, which is pure. And you put it while you're taking bath, while you're still pure, you put it inside that basket, fold it up and put it in that basket if it's still wet. Then you take that basket home. Now, when you get home, right, you have to take a bamboo stick, and you have, from the ceiling in your house, you have some chains or some rope hanging down and a couple of rings, and through those rings you have another bamboo pole. So what you do is you take your bamboo pole and you carefully take the dhoti or the sari, and you without touching it, and you put it up and you hang it over that bamboo pole, that bamboo clothesline, and it's up in the air in the house. And many of the ancient houses, they have a part of the room which is higher. The ceiling is higher than the others, and they have these arrangements of bamboo poles up there. And you put the cloth up there, and it hangs there, and that's where it dries. And then when you want it, if you're taking bath in the house, you take a bath the next day in the house in the morning, and you then come out from the bath and you again take the bamboo pole and you take it down from there and put it on. That. So always being careful not to touch it to anything which could contaminate it. So this is, some people are very, very strict about, washing and drying their clothes and not having anybody touch it. Especially the clothes that you would use for doing the worship of the deity. Yeah. Okay. So clothes washed on the previous day. Yeah, go ahead.
Guruji, yeah, like most of us, we do deity worship every day. So
Yeah.
sometimes you can use a dhoti for 3 times a day. 3 times. Maybe today you wait for puja, then you remove it and go on with your daily activities, and the next
Yeah.
day you can still wear it. Is it okay?
No, the next day you can't still wear it. Okay. So for instance, there's different types of clothes, right, that you wear for puja. So there's silk and there's wool and there's certain materials. And I think we already had some verses here in Hari Bhakti Vilasa that talked about silk and wool and some other types of cloth that are considered pure, more pure, and all you need to do is hang them in the wind and show them to the sun and they become purified, or even sprinkle with a little bit of water, they become purified. You don't actually have to wash them. But mostly people wear cotton. And when they wear cotton has to be washed. So you wash it and you have to hang it up in the wind and the sun and it gets dried. Okay. So now, how does cloth get contaminated? Cloth gets contaminated. Contamination occurs by touch, normally by touch. In all the scriptures we see, if something touches something which is contaminated, it becomes contaminated. If you become contaminated by eating, right? You're eating means you're touching your mouth, right, with your hands and things like that. Again, the mouth is one of the 9 holes like that. So your whole body, you become contaminated by eating. So if you're wearing cloth while you're eating, that cloth, you have to wash that. You can't use that cloth for doing worship, right? Unless it's silk cloth, and silk cloth, maybe you can just simply sprinkle it or hold it up in the wind or the sun and purify it in that way, like that. Okay, a normal thing would be you have a dhoti, you have a dhoti and a chadar which you're using for doing puja, and one day. Okay, so if you want to go to the bathroom, right? If you want to go and eat, right? So go eat, but first of all, take that off, fold it up, put it in a pure place, right? Then go eat, right? And then you should probably take a bath, right? Go to the bathroom, but then you should take a bath. And after you've taken a bath, maybe you can put on that same folded up pure dhoti and chadar to continue worship in the same day, but not for, you can't keep it for the next day. You're not going to be able to keep it for the next day, because what does it say here? It says cloth washed on previous days. When was that cloth washed? That cloth was washed on a previous day. That cloth wasn't washed today, right? So if you're ritualistic, if you want to be totally 100% ritualistically pure, you should probably wear cloth which is washed that day. And that's what I was telling you. You wash it while you're taking the bath, and you hang it up, and it dries, because India is hot. It dries almost instantly, like that. If not, the not strictly correct, you take it home, you put it on a bamboo pole, and the next day you can use it, but it's just freshly been washed. It hasn't been up there for many days. It's only been hanging up overnight. Say, that's it, right? So today we have, it's a completely different, we're not living in a varnashram society. We're not following all these little rules of varnashrama, but we have washing machines, we have laundromats, we have people we have tailors to make the clothes, we have maybe we have servants to wash the clothes in India, or maybe our wife washes our clothes, or but if you want to strictly follow the scriptures, you wash your clothes right before you do the worship, or on that day, and dry the clothes. That's the strictest. Now in India, most Brahmins, then they have some cloth which they hung up in the house on the bamboo pole, and they put it, and they take it off the bamboo pole in the morning if they have to go out and take a bath in the river or the lake, right? So what they do is they've got this cloth that was washed the day before. It's hung up in the house, right? Maybe it didn't dry. It couldn't dry outside during the day, right? Because if they hang it up and they leave it on the clothesline, and then they go and have breakfast, then they can't come and touch it anymore. They have to take another bath before they can touch it. So what they do is they come back to the house with the wet cloth. They put it up on the bamboo pole. Then they come back then the next morning, before they go out for the bath, they take with the bamboo pole, they take that cloth off. They just got up, they're dirty, but they're holding a bamboo pole. The bamboo pole is pure, and it's like insulated. So they take the cloth off, they put it in the basket, and they close the basket. The basket is pure. They go to the river, they go to the tank, they take bath, right? The cloth that they've worn while they were sleeping, they wake up in, they go down to the river and they take bath washing that. They hang that up while they're finishing their bath. When they get out, they open up the basket, they take the cloth that was hanging overnight in their house on the bamboo pole, they take that out and they wear that, they put tilak, they do Sandhya Vandanam. After Sandhya Vandanam, if the cloth is still not, that they wash during taking bath is still not dry, they will take that and put that inside the basket, right? They're still pure, right? From doing bath and Sandhya. They put it in the thing. Normally they'll put it in they could put it even before Sandhya Vandanam if they want to be careful, and they take it back to the house, put it back on the bamboo clothesline, and then the next morning again do the same thing. That's how you have to do it if you really want to be ritualistically pure, if you want ritualistically pure cloth. That's what it's saying here. It's saying cloth washed on previous days is not considered pure. Hari Bhakti Vilasa. Okay, it says it right here. Okay, so now, is that practical to do today? No. So what we can do is we have to do some certain things practically. So what do we do practically? Practically, we take our clothes when they're dirty. We're dirty. We take our dirty clothes, we put them in a washing machine, we wash them. After we take them out, we're dirty, unless we take a bath before we go and do our laundry. So a lot of people, they don't go and take a bath before they do their laundry. But if you really want to be pure, then you have to take a bath to do your laundry. But see, as soon as you take a bath, as soon as you touch the dirty laundry, you become impure. So you have to if you wanted to do it today, what you do is you get your dirty laundry, you put it in the washing machine. You go take a bath. You come back to the washing machine when it's finished. You open the washing machine, you're pure because you just took a bath. You take the cloth out of the washing machine and you hang it up, right, on a clean bamboo rod or a clean line, right? You have to clean the line probably, right? In the sun and the wind, it dries. Now, you have to wait for it to dry there and don't do anything else. Or if you go away and you do something else and you become contaminated, you have to take another bath before you get it again, and then fold it up and put it in a pure container, pure basket, right? So, it's if you really want to keep your cloth pure to this extent, it's quite difficult. Okay. I described to you what the Brahmins in India do today. If they're very Orthodox Brahmins, if they're not Orthodox Brahmins, they just what do? They have somebody wash the clothes. It might be a servant, low-class person. They wash the clothes. They dry the clothes. They fold up the clothes. They put it in the closet. Next morning they get up. They take a bath in the bathroom from contaminated water from a tap, and then they get out, and then they just put on. They take a cloth from the drawer or from the cupboard and put it on. That's what normally people do. Okay, we're talking about ritualistic bath. We're talking about ritualistic clothes for a ritual, for doing the puja. So that if you want it to be absolutely ritualistically pure, this is what the Shastra says you should do. So sometimes we can't do exactly what the Shastra says. So we have to do it. Just like this discussion about bathing naked. People don't bathe naked all the time, but some people bathe naked, some people don't bathe naked, like that. If you're outside, obviously, in a sacred place, you don't bathe naked. But, today it's very common that people bathe naked. In those days, it wasn't, but they didn't have indoor plumbing. So we have to make some adjustments for the modern time, So you try to follow these rules as closely as you can, but obviously there are some things which you just can't do. Or it becomes too difficult to do. If you find yourself taking so many baths a day because you touch something and you become contaminated, it becomes unworkable. But very simply, it's very simple. You have one, you can have one set of cotton cloth a day, right? Dhoti and a chador, which you wear for doing worship. But if you're going to go eat, if you're going to go to the bathroom, then you should take them off. You should fold them up, go do that, then take another bath, come back, put those things off. But for that day, but keeping a cotton cloth for more than one day without washing it, it's not done. Nobody does that. Okay, that's not acceptable. That's not even acceptable in ISKCON. Okay, I don't know I don't know if that's the way you were taught, but that was never acceptable. That was never acceptable. So not just for pujaris, for anybody. So okay. So anyway, let's continue on because what we're doing here is we're understanding what the scriptures say, what the different Shmiti Shastras say, like that. What actually happens in daily life today in a non-Varnashram society, right, might be something a little bit different. That's the point. So one should not wear unwashed clothes. One should not wash clothes washed by a laundryman, clothes washed the previous days, as well as red clothes, dirty clothes, wet clothes, dirty loincloth in a coconut. Right. So now wet clothes is another question. There are exemptions from this. In southern Karnataka and Kerala specifically, it's very warm, and people do go into the temple tank, bathe, and wearing the same wet clothes, they can go into the temple. You can go into the temple even dripping wet, and that's considered fine. That's considered okay, because at least the people in the temple know, oh, he took a bath right before he came to the temple, so they appreciate that actually if you go in wet and you're wearing wet clothes. But in general, since Hari Bhakti Vilasa was written in North India, generally people don't do that in North India. That's not a custom, right, in North India to wear wet clothes going into the temple or to do any rituals. And there are certain rituals where you can't wear wet clothes, and there are other rituals where you will be wearing wet clothes, say, right? For instance, if you're standing in a river doing Sandhya Vandanam, in a river, then you'll be facing the current or facing the sun, and there'll be a certain level of the water that you have to stand at, right? So you can't stand you can't be in the water with your clothes submerged, but you also can't be completely divorced from the water. You have to, when you're taking water from the river to do Sandhya Vandanam, your left hand has to be touching the water of the river all the time. So there's many little rules. Okay, so let's not. This is why we're reading Hari Bhakti Vilasa. We're reading Hari Bhakti Vilasa because it was everything you never wanted to ask about, right? It's all these little rules. There's all these little rules, and obviously we don't follow all these rules all the time. But don't get hung up on the little rules, right? Try to follow the trend of the whole thing. The trend of the thing. The idea is to try and be as pure as possible to worship the Lord. If that includes having pure cloth, right, wearing pure cloth or wearing uncontaminated cloth. We see what the scripture says is uncontaminated cloth. We have our modern idea also, right? So there may be sometimes we have to compromise. Okay, so one who wears old or dirty clothes is as good as naked. Okay, so being naked is not supposed to be good. Wearing old and dirty clothes is also not supposed to be good. So a person who wears short clothing is also called naked. Now, there's also some exceptions to this. There's a specific type of dhoti. Like sometimes if you ever see a movie with Hanuman in it, and the way they dress Hanuman is he's wearing a dhoti, but his dhoti is up above his knees. It's sort of like a pair of shorts, the way it's put on. Okay, so this is considered a short type of clothing. So now, is that possible to wear that type of clothing to do puja? Yes, it is in certain sects and certain sampradayas. It's possible. Like for instance, in the Madhva Sampradaya, when they go in, or in Kerala, they have a type of dhoti that they wear, which is very open weave, and it dries very quickly. But it's also very lengthwise. It might be long, but widthwise is very short. So when you wrap it around, it ends up being a dhoti like the type like shorts, like what you see Hanuman wear in the movies. Okay, so that's also possible for some people, but most people don't wear that. So in general, Shastra doesn't suggest that you wear your dhoti or your sari hiked up, over your knees or short like that. So he's also considered, a person who wears short clothing is also considered naked. So one who wears cloth that is twice the size of ordinary clothes is considered naked. Again, there are some exceptions to this, which I mentioned. Sometimes the ladies in South India, the Brahmin ladies, wear 9-yard saris, right? So that is 4.5 yards is normally the length of a sari in North India or in other states, but a 9-yard sari. But the thing is, the 9-yard sari is tied like a dhoti inside. It's wrapped around, and then it comes up and over and around the body to cover the top too, because the lady who wears that doesn't necessarily wear or doesn't usually wear a choli, because the choli or the blouse is a sewn piece of, so the sewing only came in later and was not there in the Vedic times. There was no sewing. So we discussed about sewing and the problems with sewing, the problems with having a tailor make a sewn piece of cloth or cutting the cloth and having frayed edges. These are all problems with sewing. Okay, so sewing is not there. So the ladies, the Brahmin ladies, even Smarta or Vadagalai or Tengalai in South India, they wear their muddy sari, the 9-yard sari, because the end of the sari, one end of the sari is going to be wrapped around the top of the body, because they're not wearing a choli, they're not wearing a blouse piece. Okay, so even today, when ladies go and attend a marriage ceremony, or when they go and attend a puja, or go to the temple, very, very Orthodox ladies will wear that. They'll wear it like that. They'll wear a 9-yard sari. So here, when it says, when it's twice as long, right, or if it's much longer, that's considered also to be naked, right? Twice the ordinary size, that is also considered to be naked. There's an exception. There are some exceptions to that. But normally, you should not wear a cloth which is hugely longer than it should be. Right. So again, that depends upon how you're going to wrap the cloth, how you're going to wear the cloth. So continuing on, one who wears red clothes is considered naked. Okay, so you'll see all the time. You'll see ladies wearing red saris. Okay, that's an exception. We're not gonna say that's for ladies. They have an exception. They can wear red cloth. Okay, for males, they shouldn't wear red cloth. Now, sometimes you might see in the Madhva Sampradaya, for instance, the men can wear red cloth. Okay, so that's an exception. That's a sect-specific or Sampradaya-specific exception. That in their Sampradaya, they do like that. Those who wear stitched clothes. See, we mentioned here about stitched clothes. So the choli is a stitched cloth. The shirt is a stitched clothes. You can't wear a shirt when you're doing arti, when you're worshiping the deity. You shouldn't wear any stitched clothing like that. Even in Vrindavan, when I was a pujari in Vrindavan, it got very cold in the winter, and the deity rooms are not heated. We had a few little electric heaters that we put in the deity room, but it was cold, very cold, like that. We have to walk on the cold marble. We couldn't wear anything we couldn't wear socks in the deity room, right? And there were some people who would go in. They would wear bagobandis. They would wear big. They would wear sweaters and they would wear things when they're worshiping the deity, like that. But what you have to do is what I used to do is I had a silk chadar, right? It was actually matka silk. It was a himsa silk chadar, and you wrap it around yourself like this, and you're warm, So it's an angavastram around the top part of the body. If you have to remain warm, you just have to wrap yourself in the chadar, and keep warm. Like that. So I would never wear a shirt in the deity room. And as I said, it's there in Chaitanya Charamrita. Prabhupada mentions that rule from the Shmriti Shastra that says if you wear stitched clothing, when you're too close to the deity or offering obeisance to the deity or on the upper part of the body, then one becomes a leper for 7 births. So we can find that quote, and I'll show you some other time. And anyway, so red clothes considered naked. Those who wear stitched clothes, oily clothes, right? If there's spots of oil, if you've been eating and ghee has dropped on your, some oily food and stained your clothes, right? Clothes tucked into 2 places. What does it mean, clothes tucked into 2 places? Here it's talking about what a grihasta should wear. A grihasta has to wear clothes which are tucked in 5 places. That's why I said the panchakacha. When you just wear a lungi or a gamsha, you put it on and you fold it in 2 places on each side of your hip so that it doesn't fall off. That's the way you do it. Maybe some people even knot it so that it doesn't come off. But the general way is you fold it in front of yourself, right, across the front, and you fold it on either side of your hip like that so it doesn't come off. That's two tucks or clothes tucked in 2 places. So that's a clothes tucked in 2 places. So once again, there's an exception for bathing. So when you're bathing, you can wear that. Or if you're brahmachari or if you're a sannyasi, you can wear that. So these are the exceptions. So we're talking in general here about rules for grihastas. Normally, there will be some exceptions for other ashramas, for other genders, for the ladies, and for other times like when you're bathing. So there's some exceptions. So, and clothing without a chadar. This is why some people, when they take bath, they'll also wear a chadar while they're taking bath. As well as those who do not wear any clothes at all are considered naked. Obviously, people who don't wear any clothes at all, there are some Babajis in India called Naga Babas, but they're not Vaishnavas usually. And they don't wear any clothes at all. There are some Jain ascetics. In the Jain religion, they have 2 sects in the Jains. They're called Digambara and Swedambara. The Swedambaras wear white cloth, and the Digambaras don't wear any cloth. They're called sky-clad sadhus. They're clothed only by the sky. Okay, so the Digambara sect of Jainism, they are completely naked. They walk around completely naked. They wear a mask over their face so they don't breathe any. They're completely into ahimsa or non-violence, so they wear a mask over their face so they don't breathe any microbes in. They sweep in front of their feet with a fan made of peacock feathers. They filter their water through cloth so they don't drink any microbes like that. So they do all these things in order to avoid ahimsa like that, but they go around naked. They're called Digambaras. Okay, so Diga means direction, Ambara means cloth. So Digambara means they're sky-clad. They're clothed only by the directions. Okay, so continuing on in text 149 to 150, a lot of these rules that we're going through now, are not going to be applicable. We had rules yesterday in the previous class. We had rules for cleaning containers that had been contaminated with spit and urine and stool, like that. Personally, I'm probably going to throw that container out. I'm not going to even try to clean it. But there are some rules there for cleaning it, for ways to clean it. There's some procedures for cleaning things like that. And other things we were talking about, heating things and heating them for a certain time. So that's all mentioned. So if you want to take advantage of those rules to save containers that have been contaminated in some way, otherwise just throw them away. So, or give to some low-class people. So here we have, in the next 2 verses, 149, 150, such naked people. So he's listed all these people who are technically considered to be naked. If you're wearing long cloth, red cloth, dirty cloth, cloth that hasn't been washed that same day, right? All these people are considered naked, right? Or even if you're not wearing any cloth at all. Right? Such naked people are not eligible to perform ritualistic activities which are prescribed in the Vedas and Smritis. So just like I've mentioned to you that there are rules. There are rules that if you want to perform Vedic sacrifice and chant the Vedas, then you should cultivate knowledge of the Vedas, and you should do that daily, at least by doing Sandhya Vandanam, minimum. Right? There's many other things that you should do, but at least by doing Sandhya Vandanam, you become pure enough to perform ritualistic activities, Vedic ritualistic activities. If you're not a Brahmin, if you haven't had Upanayanam, right, if you don't chant the Gayatri mantra, but you chant the Pancharatric mantras, they're also pure. So you do the Tantric Sandhya Vandanam, or you either do the Vedic Sandhya Vandanam or Gayatri Japa and the Pancharatric Sandhya Vandanam, chanting the other Pancharatric mantras, and you become pure. Or if you're not a Brahmin, you can just do the Vaishnava mantras, and you become pure. They're all the names of God, and they all purify us. And thinking of God, meditation on God was considered before, when we discussed this in the third Vilasa, right? That's considered the greatest bath, the best bath, the most purifying bath is remembering the Supreme Person. like that. So here it's saying that people who dress in a certain way, right, like that, they're considered to be naked. They're considered to be ineligible to perform ritualistic activities, right? I don't know, I guess you could probably have a big argument with Krishna West people about this particular this aspect of Hari Bhakti Vilas. But again, all these rules are coming from Smriti Shastra, which have to do with Varnashram. If you're not living in a Varnashram society, a lot of them don't apply. So anyway, here it is. So those persons are not considered ritually pure, so they can't perform either Vedic or other type of rituals. When it says Shmitis, it means the Puranas, it means all the other literatures. There's Nigama and Agama. There's the Vedas, which is called Nigama, and Agama, which is the Pancharatras and other literatures. So these people who are classified previously as naked because they've worn their cloth in a particular way or wrong way, right, or wrong type of cloth, right? Those persons are ritualistically impure. They are not eligible. They're not qualified to perform any Vedic act or any Pancharatric or Puranic act. Okay, any ritualistic act. Right. So if by mistake they do so, their degradation is inevitable. So this very heavy statement here. Remember, this is a Mahatmyam. This is a glorification of wearing the proper cloth. If you wear the proper cloth, you're going to have all success. And if you don't wear the proper cloth or the proper way, you're going to be degraded. It's inevitable, it says here, right? So whatever they do is useless labor only. So you'll read these things. And to a certain extent, we have to take these with a grain of salt because, they're a little bit hyperbolic because they tend the idea of these statements is to get people to think about what they're doing and try to do things in a more pure way, right? The whole idea is consciousness, to try and do things in as pure a way as possible. So we should go through our daily activities and what we do, and we should think, can I do this in a more pure way? If you're doing something daily, right, worshiping the Lord, then think about how to make things more pure. If you can't think about how to make them pure, then you can't do it like that. For instance, Pradyumna, Prabhupada's secretary and Sanskrit scholar, he was reading Hari Bhakti Vilas. When he was reading Hari Bhakti Vilas, he said to Prabhupada one time, he said, Prabhupada, I heard that in the Hari Bhakti Vilas it says that the pujari in the temple should stand or sit on an asana. And before that in ISKCON, there were no asanas. You would go into the deity room and there was just a bare floor. So if you had to sit on the floor, you sat on the floor. If you had to lie down on the floor, you had to lie down on the floor, right? If you had to stand there and do arti, you had to stand on a bare floor. But after that time, so he said that to Prabhupada. So Prabhupada said, that's good, you read that. So because you've read that, because you now have come to that understanding, you've come to that consciousness that you should be sitting or standing on something, not just the bare floor, right? Now introduce it. Now do it. Now that you think that you can do better, right? Do it. So then he told everybody, and we all started putting kusha grass mats and different mats to stand on in the deity room or to sit on when we're doing, offerings and things like that. So that's how things come. So as you can increase your standard, right, by doing these things. But if I'm sitting on the bare floor, and I don't know that I'm supposed to be sitting on an asana, I won't care about it. If I know, because I've read the scriptures, now you read the scriptures. Now you know what's right, you know what's wrong according to the scriptures. So now you have no excuse. You can't say, I was ignorant. I didn't know. I didn't know that I shouldn't wear red clothes. So I wore red clothes, or I didn't know that my dhoti shouldn't be twice as long as it's supposed to be, right? Or it shouldn't be wet, right? I didn't know that it should only have two tucks is not bona fide, right? For a grihasta to go and to wear, lungi like that is also what in Sri Rangam. Sometimes I'll go with my Sanskrit teacher, and he'll say, "Oh, come and see my acharya," and we'll go see that acharya at the mutt like that. And so, because I ride a bicycle around Sri Rangam, sometimes I just wear a vesti. I wear a short dhoti just without the tail like that, because if I wear the tail and everything like that, it becomes difficult to ride a bicycle. So I said, okay, I'll go and meet your acharya. So I went if I go wearing just a vesti, just like a lungi, if I go in front of that person, that guy says, get out of here. Go away and come back. He'll say, go away and come back when you come in Swarupa. When you come in proper attire, you come back. He doesn't want to see me. And he will, if the women come in front of him, if people, big donors who have given him thousands of millions of rupees like that, and they're his disciples, he will tell them, if you and your wife come before me, you come wearing a proper dhoti and a proper chadar, and your wife comes wearing a 9-yard sari. And if you don't wear a proper dhoti and chadar, and your wife doesn't wear a 9-yard sari, right, then don't come and see me. I don't want to see you. I want to see you only in proper attire, like that. So there are some people even today who are very orthodox. What to speak of worshiping the deity? This is some Swami. He won't even see you. He won't even see you if you're not wearing proper attire, like that. So some people are very strict about it even to today. Okay, maybe not in North India, but in South India, there's people who are very strict about this. Okay, so whatever they do is useless labor. Their so-called religious activities simply help the demons. Okay, so amazing statements like this, right? One should maintain purity, silence, self-control, and proper dress code while performing fire sacrifices, right? Did you ever see somebody do a fire sacrifice wearing blue jeans, right? Wearing tank top, wearing shorts? No, so you should, I mean, people can say all these things. Like I put this to some of these Krishna West people sometimes. I say to them, okay, if maybe if you come to the temple, nowadays people go to the temple and they wear all sorts of clothes. As long as they're decent, according to the standards of society, we let them come in. Even in my house, when I have programs in my house, people come to my house. If they come straight from the beach and they're wearing bikinis and things like that, I say, no, cover up. Here. I have lungis. If you go to Indonesia, to Bali, Hinduism has spread all over Asia, right? So in the kingdom, in the country of Indonesia, in the island of Bali, the Hindu island of Bali, if you want to go into a Balinese temple, even if you're a tourist, you can go inside, but you can't wear shorts. You have to wear a sarong. They give you a sarong when you wear it like a lungi. And the men and the women have even if you go to Europe, and you go into some of the cathedrals in Europe, right? The women have to cover their head, they have to cover their shoulders. If they've got bare shoulders, right? If they have bare shoulders and they're not covered their head, they can rent a shawl to put on to go in and see the beautiful cathedral. So we had to do this when in Europe. You go to a place and they say, you're not dressed properly, you can't come in here, right? So it's the same thing. What to speak of just going in the temple? What to speak of going in the deity room and worshiping the deity? Right? So you have to be dressed properly. According to Shastra, you have to be dressed properly. So it's not like it's not a fanatic thing that's only there in India. In Europe, they have those standards for going into cathedrals, right? In Bali, they have those standards for going into Hindu temples in Bali. Even the tourists have to cover up. So this is all going on even today. So it shouldn't be such an amazing thing. People should understand that there is a dress code when you perform certain rituals. So what does it say? There's proper dress code while performing fire sacrifices, chanting mantras, observing fasts, and performing the Shraddha ceremonies. So all sorts of ritualistic activities, right, that you should be properly dressed. Now, again, these are rules for the Varnashram society, right? And we're not going to, for instance, chanting mantras. Okay, so ISKCON and Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they're spreading the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra all around the world. If Srila Prabhupada or anybody who's preaching went around the world and said, chant Hare Krishna, but before you do it, you have to wear dhotis and saris. Before you do it, you have to wear a cloth which you've washed today, right? Which has not been washed in a washing machine, which has not been blah, blah, blah. You can't wear red and you can't wear this, and you can't do that. You can't. If Prabhupada had told all these things, otherwise you can't properly chant mantras. All the benefit you get from chanting Hare Krishna is going to go to the demons and is going to lead you to your degradation if you're wearing blue jeans, right? Or if you're wearing modern, that's not that's not the idea. Here we're talking about if probably the only people who are going to follow these type of rules are people who are very strict and very orthodox, and they're doing it only in their own personal worship, and they want to be more conscious of their personal purity. Those sort of people can do this. However, we should understand it's not a make or break situation. So we shouldn't take a situation like this where it says, oh, if you don't do like this, you're definitely going to go to hell, or you're going to you'll be degraded. All your religious activities are going to go to the demons if you don't chant. If you're chanting Hare Krishna and you're not wearing the right clothes, right? So we shouldn't think like that. These rules are here. What are the two rules which above all we have to follow? Always remember Lord Krishna, never forget Lord Krishna, right? So we do everything that is favorable for devotional service, for bhakti yoga, and we reject everything which is unfavorable. If it is unfavorable to tell all these little rules and regulations to people, then we reject them, because they're only just little rules and regulations. They're not the main rule. The main rule is to chant Hare Krishna, or to remember the Lord. These are like taking bath. Like taking bath. What did it say? The main thing is to remember the Lord. If you follow all these rules and regulations and you forget the Lord, what's the point? So that's the thing. We have to always keep things in perspective, keep things in context, and understand what rules are important, what rules are more important, what rules are most important, and don't let the rules that are important but not very important get in the way of the rules which are the most important things, the most important doctrines and practices. Okay, so what does it say? While performing these activities, one should always wear fresh, clean clothes. So in general, you just tell people, you will get more benefit if your mentality, your consciousness will be better if you are doing things if you've taken a bath and wearing fresh clothes, right? So we could get up. We could live a life of a slob, and we could just get up, not take a bath, not wash our hands after, eating, or we could just do all sorts of things, and we could just say, oh, it doesn't matter. We just chant Hare Krishna and everything's going to be fine. And like that, we could live in such a way. But what is our consciousness going to be like? What is your consciousness going to be like? Right? Your consciousness, what you're doing is you're not acting purely, right? You're not even trying. You're not even attempting to act purely like that. It's one thing if you make a mistake sometime, right? But if you're trying to act purely, then the Lord is going to bless you, right? If you're not trying, then that's fine. If you're not trying, he's probably not going to have a lot of mercy for you. You're not trying at all. You should try. You should definitely try to follow as much as possible. Okay, so we're going to continue on. Text 151. I'd like to try to get through this section about the clothing and everything. Gobila. Gobila is a person who has written a Griha Sutra. He's a Smriti writer. He wrote Gobila Griha Sutra is a Samvedi Sutra. So anyway, he has written some rules here. He says it is prohibited to wear the same cloth while eating and while worshiping the Supreme Lord. Right? So very clearly in Hari Bhakti Vilasa here, it says, don't go, don't if you're going to do this, don't wear the cloth that you ate in and then go and worship the Lord. Right? Okay. So text 152. Trilokya Samohan Panchatantra. So Pancharatra. So there's a Pancharatra called the Trilokya Sammohan Pancharatra. It is stated one should always wear white clothes. Shukla. Shukla actually means shining, right? It can be interpreted to mean shining. Doesn't have to mean right, but mostly it means white. Okay, so wear white clothes and never wear red clothes. Rakta. And the word rakta here in Sanskrit, there are different types of red, but the word rakta normally means rust color, or it can also mean blood color, the color of blood. Okay, so there might be some wiggle room there about exactly the type of red that you're wearing. But anyway, it says wear white clothes, don't wear red clothes. Okay. So texts 153 and 154, again, a sage called Angira. Angira says, wool and cloth made of sheep's hair. I don't know if that cloth made of sheep's hair is different from wool, but wool is wool, and it's usually made of sheep's hair. Of course, there can be some other types of wool. There's the type of that you get these chaddars in India, pashmina, which are made of the chin hair of goats. So goat's hair can also be used to make wool. So sheep hair, goat's hair should be purified by exposing them to air. So they become purified if you just expose them to air, to fire, to sunlight, or to moonlight even. They become pure, right? If blankets made of sheep's hair are touched by semen, I think it's semen here. I think he's talking about semen. Ratus. Rata spristam means touched by semen, right? Or a dead body, right? So these things become contaminated, right? The only thing that doesn't become contaminated by the touch of semen is the wife, right? If you have sex with your wife and the wife obviously is impregnated with semen, then she is actually purified by that, according to the Shriti Shastras. But otherwise, semen is contaminating. And the dead body, touched by a dead body, that's just obvious. The dead body is considered contaminating. So blankets of sheep's hair or sheep's hair or wool blankets are touched by semen or a dead body. They do not become impure. So this wool or sheep's hair cloth or maybe even pashmina, like that from goat's hair, it's considered to be always pure. It's always pure. Clothes made of sheep's hair, although torn, burnt, or patched, right? These are other things that make cloth impure. When you patch a cloth because you're sewing it, if it's torn or if it's burned, right, it's considered to be impure, right? But wool, even if it's torn, burnt, or patched, always remains pure. It's the duty of a human being to perform Shraddha ceremony while wearing clothes made of sheep hair. Okay, so this is another thing. There are certain ritualistic dhotis and things like that which you can get, which are made of woolen dhoti, like that. It's not very common, and you don't normally see people using this. This is according to Angirasa, right? This is his opinion that if you perform Shraddha, you should wear woolen clothes. If one does this, his Shraddha performed is considered equal to the Shraddha performed at Gaya. So at least once in a lifetime, one has to once for one of his ancestors, like once for the mother, once for the father. One should go to Gaya. At Gaya is not only famous for the place of Lord Buddha where he attained enlightenment, but it's famous for a temple there, a Vishnu temple, where they have footprints of Lord Vishnu. So it's called Vishnupada. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually went to Gaya after his parents died, like that. He went to Gaya to do the Shraddha. And it was when he went to Gaya that he actually met up with his guru, Ishwara Puri. So he went to Gaya to do the Gaya Shraddha. So this is something that people do. They do Shraddhas. There's many Shraddha ceremonies that you do in the house and you do in your locality. But if you can get a chance, you travel to Gaya and you do this particular Shraddha at Gaya. If anybody wants the actual procedure for doing Gaya Shraddha, we can give you the Gaya Shraddha procedure. But if you don't know, you can just go to Gaya. The priests there in the temple of Gaya, they will help you through doing the Gaya Shraddha. The performer attains inexhaustible piety by satisfying the forefathers. So Gaya Shraddha is considered to be a very great type of Shraddha to perform. And so therefore, if you wear the wool clothing while you're doing any Shraddha ceremony, right, it's considered to make that Shraddha ceremony as great as performing a Gaya Shraddha. So text 155 to 156 says, O king, one should not wear torn clothes that have been repaired by stitching while engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. Okay, so if you tear a dhoti or if you tear a chadar while you're doing deity worship, you should replace it like that. And obviously, if it's wool, you can keep wearing it. But wool has its own problems because if pieces of wool fibers from the wool fall off into the pots that we use for worshiping the deity. It's not good, right? So one should also avoid wearing burnt or torn clothes and clothes that have been used by somebody else. Clothes that have been used by somebody else. You should have your own set of clothes. If you're going to do deity worship, you should have your own set of clothes. They should be clean clothes. They should be freshly washed and pure. And you shouldn't borrow other people's clothes to do deity worship, right? Unwashed clothes are considered to be as impure as crow's stool. Clothes washed by a laundryman are also considered to be impure. Continuing on, text 157, clothes that have been eaten by insects. So sometimes we put clothes away and we put them in the closet, and some animals, some moths and different things, they come and they eat the clothes, right? Clothes that are worn while passing stool and urine, right? Because they're wearing a gumsha and going and passing stool and urine, or clothes that you wear while you're passing stool and urine, or clothes that are worn while enjoying sex, should always be rejected for the service of the Lord. So these have to be, if any clothes that you're wearing any time when there's a possibility of becoming contaminated, right? By the way, once again, in the act of sex, the male becomes contaminated. The female does not become contaminated by having sex. The female becomes purified according to the Shmiti Shastra, whereas the male somehow becomes. They say two people lay down, but only one of them gets up contaminated, and that's the male. Okay, so continuing on, so these type of clothes have to be rejected for doing ritualistic worship. So 158 to 160, it says, "O king, clothes made of the sheep's hair are always pure. They can be used for any purpose, including offering oblations to the forefathers or pitris." That means the Shraddha ceremony, worshiping the deity in the temple, and performing all kinds of worldly functions. Whether such clothes are washed or unwashed, burnt, stitched, washed by a laundryman, or touched by semen, urine, or blood, which are all contaminated, right? As we said, they are considered to be pure. The grandfather of the universe, Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma, four-headed Brahma, has created four things which are never impure. And here they are listed. Fire. Fire is always pure. Clothes made of sheep's hair or wool. Wool is always pure. A brahmana is always pure. And a kusha grass is always pure. And kusha grass, in some stories in the Puranas, it's considered to be the hair of Varaha. The Lord's incarnation as a boar had some of his hair fell to the earth when fighting Hiranyaksha, the demon, and that sprouted up as kusha grass. So kusha grass is considered to be pure. Even according to that story in Madhva Sampradaya, and maybe in other sects too, they use the bristles from or hair from a boar can be also used in deity worship. And sometimes they make a little brush out of it. I have one of those brushes. It's called Varaha Keshari, which means Varaha's hair, right? And they can use it for cleaning the deity in Abhishekam. Okay. So continuing on with text 161, elsewhere it said, one should always wear pure white dhoti and chadar that are not torn and appear to be in good condition. After dressing in these clothes, one should sit on an asana and perform achmana. So now we're going to speak about the asana, and we're going to speak about the achmana. So up until now, we finished talking about the bath. We finished talking about drying after the bath. We talked about cloth to wear after the bath. And now we've taken the bath, we've dried ourselves off, we've finished the ritualistic part of the bath, and now we have dried off, and we're wearing fresh, clean, pure clothes, white clothes. And now, after that, we're going to sit down on an asana and perform achmana, right? So previously we mentioned about achmana, but we didn't go into it in detail. Now we're going to go into it in detail, and we're also going to go into some detail about asanas. There'll be more spoken about asanas also in the 17th Vilasa of Hari Bhakti Vilasa when we talk about Puruscharya, or it's also called Puruscharana, which means perfecting the chanting of the Diksha mantra. So Ata Pitam. Text 162 to 163. Pitam is a sitting place. Now, remember, we used the word Pitam previously here in Hari Bhakti Vilasa to mean the altar. So a thing that holds up another thing is a Pitam, right? It's a stand. So an asana is a Pitam, and the altar is also a Pitam, right? So in that sense, they're both called Pitam. But to distinguish them, we would call the altar, mostly we use the word Pitam for the altar, and asana we normally use for sitting place. Okay, so Vahavricha Parishishta is a shastra, and it is mentioned about the Pitam. So here it says, an asana of a sannyasi should be white and shaped like a tortoise. Now, again, the word for white up here is shukla. So I want to warn you here. See, it says yatinam, means of yatis or of sannyasis, asanam. The sitting places of yatis are shukla. Shukla means bright. It means brilliant. It doesn't necessarily mean white. So it could mean brilliant. It could mean shiny, very shiny, right? And kurma means like shaped like a tortoise. So here it says, right, the asanas of sannyasis should be white and shaped like a tortoise, right? And so you're also going to hear about this kurma chakra or kurma asana, an asana. You can actually buy them in South India. If you go to Udupi, you can buy these tortoise-shaped wooden asanas. Then you sit on top. Now, in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, it's also going to be mentioned that when you do the Purascharana, when we come to the last 17, right, if you want to perfect the mantra, the Diksha mantra that's been given to you by the teacher, by the guru, then you sit on this asana shaped like a tortoise, and there are different syllables of the mantra and different syllables which are on the asana, right? So you sit on it with facing the head of the tortoise, like that, right? So anyway, the asana of a sannyasi should be white and shaped like a tortoise. For members of other ashramas, a sitting mat should be square and 3 feet wide. The 3 feet wide is quite wide. That's quite big, right? So we don't need to skimp on these. Have these little asanas to sit on. Sometimes you see the Buddhists, they have what are they called? They have these small meditation pillows that they sit on a lot of times. So it's bigger than that. It should be, as it says here, 3 feet wide. I don't know what it says in the Sanskrit. I don't really see where it says exactly. Chaturashram too means Chatuspadam. Could be four spans and anyway, and it's square. Chatur 4 has 4 sides. Those who are wise avoid using asanas made of cow dung. Okay, I suppose you could make a raised thing made of cow dung, clay, palasha wood, and people wood. Palasha and people are sacred trees that are used in fire ceremonies, right? And iron. So these should be avoided. Okay. So now we're going to get a prayoga. We're going to get a vidhi, the process of sitting on an asana. So you might have thought it's very easy. You just sit down, right? So text 164, 65, in the same literature, which was mentioned back here, Vahavricha Parishishta, right? It's also mentioned that while giving charity, performing achmana, conducting fire sacrifices, worshipping the deity, and reciting the Vedas, right? And offering oblations to the forefathers, meaning doing Pitri Tarpana, right? Or offering a Shraddha ceremony. One should not kneel or place both feet on the asana while sitting. One should not kneel. So kneeling on the asana. So you don't sit, with your knees and your feet underneath you, right? And your knees touching the touching the floor, right, on an asana. And you don't also put both feet flat on the asana while sitting. Now, there are some exceptions to this. What it says here is to say performing achamana. So performing achamana and also worshiping the deity. Sometimes when you're worshiping the deity, you're standing. You'll be standing. Sometimes it won't be at all appropriate to sit. So that's one thing. The other thing is when doing achamana, yes, you can sit on the asana, but sometimes there's another posture that you can perform when doing achamana, and that is called kukkutasana. Kukkutasana means squatting like a chicken. Kukkuta is actually a cock or a male chicken, right? So in Sanskrit, it's an onomatopoeic word. Kukkuta ratal, I think I've mentioned this before. Kukkuta ratal means the crowing of the cock. At dawn, when the sun comes up, the male chickens, they crow. They crow at other times too, but they crow they crow anyway. They crow, and this onomatopoeic word makes a sound like the crow, the cock's crow. Kukkuta. Okay, so kukkuta is the kukkuta means the cry of the cock in the morning. So if we take off ratal and we say kukkuta means that cock, that chicken, that male chicken. So how does a male chicken? Male chicken has these two legs and has the wings. So it just sits and squats on its two legs, right? Stands on its two legs. So that system where you're just squatting, anybody who's been to India has seen many people, what they do is they squat down. It's very similar to the way people squat down when they're passing stool or urine, right? They squat down, and you squat down, and then you take the achamani and the water in your hands between your open knees, and you're squatting down. This is called kukkuta asana. So this is also another bona fide way of doing achamana. Normally, you're not supposed to do achamana standing, so you're either sitting, unless for some health reason you have to, but either you're sitting on an asana or you're in kukkutasana. So you're doing achamana. Okay, so let's see. Otherwise, it's good to reciting the Vedas. Also, there can be some exceptions. You can recite the Vedas while you're walking or standing. That's not forbidden. And many times in deity processions, people will also chant the Vedas either before or after the deity. In Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, in Sri Rangam and other places, they don't chant Sanskrit. They chant the Tamil Prabandha hymns of the Alwars in front of the deity, and in the back of the deity, when it's in a procession, they chant the Vedas. So when reciting the Vedas in a gosti means a group of Brahmins, and they're all chanting, they could be standing. But they also could be sitting. So it's very common also, like on Ekadasis, people, especially Krishna Yajurvedis on Ekadasi, right? In Krishna Yajurvedis on Ekadasi, they will say, they will chant Achidram, Ashramedam. There are some parts of the Krishna Yajurveda which are recited on Ekadasis, and they'll all do it sitting in a place. So we're just going to continue on a little bit further, and then we'll finish up for today. Giving charity, performing achamana, conducting fire sacrifices, worshipping the deity, reciting Vedas, offering oblations to the forefathers, being Pitruttarpana. One should not kneel or place both feet on the asana while sitting. Okay, continuing on for text 166 and 167. Therefore, thereafter, one should sit properly, keeping both feet touching the floor. Okay, so probably this is what we call sukhasana, right? There are different types of asanas, right? So there's sukhasana, there's swastikasana, and there's padmasana. So padmasana, anybody who's done hatha yoga, they know padmasana means full lotus or lotus form. The feet are up and they're crossed over in front. So the feet don't touch the ground. Swastikasana is one foot is down and one foot is up. So one foot touches the ground. Sukhasana or happy pose. Swastikasana means auspicious, the auspicious form, right? The happy pose, which is very easy to do, where both feet are touching the ground, but they're crossed over, right? So that's what he's talking about. Thereafter, one should sit properly, keeping both feet touching the ground, and then mark his body with Gopi Chandan Tilak after performing Achamana. Although the general rule is to put on Tilak before performing Achamana, right? Because one needs to have Tilak to perform Puja, Achamana should be performed first in this case. Afterwards, one should apply sandal paste that has been used in the service of the Lord's lotus feet and smear it over one's body. Okay, so because we're going to be talking about some of these other things like Achmana and putting on tilak next, right, in detail, so we'll leave it at this section. The point is that we have to sit in Sukhasana in an easy pose. You can tell there are other asanas which you can also sit in, right? But we're avoiding kneeling and avoiding putting both feet flat on the asana, but sitting with our legs crossed usually like that, and then we can say Achmana and then put on tilak. So at this point,